Hello students, welcome to EPG Patashala. I am Dr. K.R. Rammohan, Associate Professor, Head Department of Anthropology, Sikkim University. Today we are going to talk a module on Postmodernism. This topic comes from the paper Theories and Methods in Social and Cultural Anthropology. Before we discuss this module, let us see what are the learning objectives. This module will equip the student the theory of postmodernism in anthropological thought. It gives a background of modernism so that we can understand postmodern condition. We'll discuss postmodernism and we'll attempt to bring a definition of postmodernism to see what are the principal tenets of postmodernism and what are the important perspectives developed by postmodernists and the critique of theory of postmodernism. Until recently, postmodernism has pervaded, or the postmodernism as a concept, as a critique, has pervaded to all disciplines in social sciences, particularly in literature, in arts, in its aesthetics, in philosophy, even in sociology and anthropology. This is much debated critique in anthropology, particularly in contemporary times. Postmodernism as a critique of all the body of knowledge is seen as a kind of an intellectual movement where the postmodernists or scholars who are in tune with this postmodern thinking, they try to challenge the immediate passing stage of modernist ideas and modernism that was prevalent in the whole 19th century. So postmodern or postmodernity, there are two terms here, modern and post. So what happened after modernism? What is the condition of after modernism? So postmodernism is a kind of a culture in the contemporary time frame of history. So postmodern scholars, they want to see and critique the whole knowledge produced during modernist era. So before we go on to postmodernism, let us have a glimpse of bird's eye view of what is modernism. Because when we say a prefix of postmodernism, let us understand once again. So modernism is a movement, basically philosophical and artistic in nature. So modernism, it's all started and originated with the Western ideology in the Western context. That is all related to the cultural and social changes due to revolutions and many social transformations that has taken place, particularly in the Western civilization, mostly in the Europe. So modernism came around the end of 19th century till 20th century. So one can conveniently say the end of modernism perhaps could have halted around 1945. Many scholars believe that, because modernism was related to industrial growth, modernism was related to urbanization, westernization, and one can also see other features like there is a decline in the role of religion the religious institutions control over society, like the church and other established religious bodies. There was also a decline of superstitious beliefs because advent of science, advance of technology, there is an increased sense of well-being and accumulation of surplus wealth. In that sense, one can understand that modernism has brought significant changes in society's outlook towards nature. So, along with these changes, there was also a shift in the ideologies that very prominent, particularly in the Victorian era. Now, being understood what is modernism, let us see what is postmodernism. As I said, the word post is a prefix which means after or later these modernist epoch. So the word postmodernism refers to a philosophical movement that came after modernism. And we all know that this movement is slowly started accumulating in 20th century. So postmodern critique or postmodern thinking is equally applicable to all facets of the social processes or the social aspects in the society. The economic aspects, the political, social, cultural, arts, aesthetics, literature, music, fiction, and history. So, postmodern school of thought has nothing to do with the historical developments. What happened, how happened, all those in epochs and all, they are not much interested in that. So, in postmodern, the natures becomes secondary and supreme importance given to human world. So, nature subsumes and the human beings are the prime movers of this entire civilization process. So it meant that breaking barriers with everything that existed before in the human civilization. So postmodernism thus inspired and grew along the lines of after the structuralist thoughts. It also gave impetus to understand the entire Western civilization, how what events might have shaped and why this condition is prevailing now. If modernism is understood in terms of the capitalistic mode of production, capitalistic mode of classes, capitalistic way of society, how things happened in a capitalistic society, the advent of technology, transportation, all kinds of developments. Postmodernism deals with what happened after capitalist societies came. How is the condition now? So in postmodern thinking, there are few influential thinkers which gave us insights into the whole literature. Starting with Heidegger, we have Michael Foucault, Jacques Derrida, Francis Lothard, Richard Rorty, or most famous postmodern thinkers, or we can say they are postmodern philosophers. So one of the main important features of postmodernism is a disenchantment with modernist thinking. They want to detach themselves from that modernism has brought significant changes in the world. Modernist ideas of the social reality. So it became a critique to the entire social life. Though it supports globalization, they primarily believe that these breaking of borders are very important. From country to country, culture to culture. In a sense, they're advocating a free world, that human beings need freedom. Human beings should not be influenced by one particular ideology. They should not get bogged down by a particular institution. When it comes to ethics, what is good, what is right, what is bad, postmodernists believe that the whole arena of ethics should not be in the hands of the society. Ethics should be the subject matter of the individual alone. And ethics should not be a collective aspect. And morality also should be more individualistic. Individuals should not be ruled by the society. Perhaps we can differ, one can differ with the morality of one individual with another individual. So for postmodernist, morality becomes a private affair. Hence, if they advocate that morality is a private affair, it means it is a liberal philosophy advocating free will, where religion has no role, or it has become very less effective in controlling human life. It should not give a moral guidelines that you should do like that. And it is advocating a secular approach. In that sense, postmoderns believe that plurality of religions, there is not only one single religion. Each religion must have its own moral code. Each religion might have different sets of preaching. So for postmodernists, to put it simply, there is no one correct way of life. There is no single truth. There are multiple truths. And everyone has the equal rights to live the way one wants to wish for, without any restrictions. So in that sense, when it comes to sexual orientation, postmodernist supports or opposes the heteronormativity of sexual orientation, a male versus female. One can pursue their own sexual orientations. Like one can become a homosexual, one can become a feminist, one can become a transgender. One should not get bound by the societal structure of heteronormativity, either or things. In that sense, for a postmodern, every person has different social, intellectual, and lastly, biological preferences. Whom should he choose to live with? So, in that sense, postmodernism supports individual rationality and self subjectivity. So, it considers that individuals' opinions are supreme and believe that everything is ever changing, nothing is constant. So, traditional forms of knowledge must be seen in the light of postmodern world. They are little critical of how knowledge was constituted, under what conditions this knowledge was constituted, under what conditions this text was produced, what were the historical currents, what were the ideological base when someone produced a text, what is the authenticity of that truth, how does this text can claim that it is an absolute truth. So in that sense they say that one has to be very critical about some form of knowledge. One has to look beyond and look for in depth how and why, under what circumstances this knowledge was produced. In a sense that every individual constructs one's reality according to their own culture. Perhaps they are very optimistic, saying that people have billions of subjective realities and experiences, and there is no objective reality. And they are very critical of what is objectivity in the science. How can one become objective? And they are very critical the way the scientist has produced this objectivity. They are questioning perhaps there could be some subjectivity when you are producing the objectivity of a particular phenomenon. So they call this as a postmodern condition where one has to be very critical in grasping and the theories that are in place, the so-called grand theories. So they want to replace this age-old grand theories with the local narratives. So Lythot, with his famous book, The Postmodern Condition, a report on the knowledge, says that the type of knowledge and what meaning of knowledge exist should be questioned. Now here, the notion of knowledge in postmodern condition or era is meant to terminate the grand theories like Marxism, like this theory, that theory, and the long narratives, meta narratives produced by the modern world. And they wanted to see how a particular local narrative is important, what meanings they give according to one's knowledge, rather than banking upon the age-old theories which are still relevant in this world. So Lythot proposed that postmodern thinkers or postmodernists should break the shackles of these meta-narratives and the grand universal theories, the ivory towers, which we look the whole world. They give an example that we go to the highest point of a building and we look all the things, but that should not be the correct procedure in understanding the world and social reality. And they proposed that one must understand the local narrative where which are specific, non-universal, and deal only with a single event. With that, we can get a myriad or very varied forms of human experiences, not one single experience. So in this process, they proposed a concept called deconstruction, which is very important in postmodern understanding, particularly the text which is produced, the style of writing in literature, and they question the kind of language that has been used in the text. So what are the latent meanings are encoded in the text should be explored. You have to bring it down. You have to again break into parts of the text which has been produced. So it means to pursue a meaning of a particular text to a level that all its inherent contradictions and oppositions are exposed to show that there is no coherence and there is no one meaning with that particular concept. And postmodernists believe that every text is potential piece of understand. There could be multiple truths lying behind that concept. But this can only be done through deconstruction analysis. Language just per se we do not know, but we have to go in detail. Only then we can know what is the deeper meaning lies inside a particular piece of knowledge. So in that sense, they say that language is considered a system of science which should be decoded in this whole deconstruction process. Well, being understood that postmodernists give a new insights into to critique the whole modernistic thinking, but it is not short of criticism. It has its own set of critics. They say that it is the whole method of postmodernist rejecting the grand narratives, deconstruction is highly debatable. And many scholars think that this is only a kind of a fashion. And they say that it is, though it is new, but it is not that influential paradigm that can stay for long time. And some more scholars say that this is highly confusing and which is not good, while attacking all the theories and the knowledge produced. To summarize, though there is no precise definition of what is postmodernism, but postmodernism is something that is a way of looking things around us. Postmodernism is a perspective, more of an intellectual movement that is understood that there is no absolute truth, there is no single truth, and particularly the text which is produced knowledge should be questioned, and one has to look for the deeper meanings in the coded text. It has to be decoded. To put it very simply, they say that this is a philosophy of playfulness, and postmodernism has no truth at all. So what is the right way of understand nature or text, or the ultimate objectivity, is only a myth according to postmodernists. Though it proposes liberalism, and believes in breaking all the shackles of science and system of authoritarian truth, and proposes subjectivities are more important in objectivity, is perhaps very confusing. Hence, though postmodernism is influential in developing critical thinking and asking for look for more local narratives, it is believed that it is only a condition which emerged after modernism.